Welcome back, everyone. Wow, there's some bizarre stuff going on. I keep telling myself I'm not going to do any more stuff on the World Economic Forum for a while, but the World Economic Forum keeps doing crazy things that we can't ignore. And one of the new technologies, not through them technically, but was actually shown and proposed at a WEF meeting, the recent one in Davos, is a brain surveillance program that they want to use in workplaces and for law enforcement. And, for those of you familiar with this type of technology, this is not technically new. They already have this in China. In Chinese schools, for example, it's already being used. They're planning on rolling out new technologies for it this year that work like little earbuds. And these little earbuds monitor your brain waves, which your boss can watch, which law enforcement can watch, and which can be used in all kinds of creepy ways. I'll show you their own little promotional video for this, and we'll go over that. Also, folks, quite a bit going on. I want to talk also about the police body cam footage of Paul Pelosi and, frankly, some of the weird stuff going on with that. Do you know Nancy Pelosi held an exorcism afterwards, but then people called like the local Catholic church, and they had no idea. So who knows what priest she called in for it. And there's weird stuff with who opened the door. I'm going to show you some videos on this. What the weird stuff with Paul Pelosi and the hammer attack. And also we'll talk about, good old nuclear war. The Cold War is back, apparently. And so we'll be talking about what's happening with Russia, with China, and even actually Iran, because now Israel is launching airstrikes in Iran, or we believe it's Israel. Quite a lot going on, a lot to talk about as always. Wild times, folks, but it's good to be here with you through it all. That said, those of you on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, we will jump over exclusively to Epic TV after about 20, 25-ish minutes. So join us on Epic TV. And that said, folks, let's jump into the first story. Let's start today with a video. Let me show you this. Well, actually, I'll start with breaking news because there's actually something big just took place. This took me by surprise. I did not think this would happen. I would take this as very good news, though. Biden has announced that the pandemic will be declared over, and he's going to be ending his emergency powers. Now, he's saying this is going to happen on May 11th, so it's giving himself some time still, right? He's not just dropping things immediately. But he is now saying that he's going to end the pandemic. Now, we'll see if this actually happens, but let me show you what they're saying. This is AP, and it says this. President Joe Biden informed Congress on Monday that he will end the twin national emergencies for addressing COVID-19 on May 11th, as most of the world has returned closer to normalcy 3 years after they were first declared. The move to end the national emergency and public health emergency declarations would formally restructure the federal coronavirus response to treat the virus as an endemic threat to public health that can be managed through agencies' normal authorities. In other words, the pandemic is over. We're now in the endemic state, the eternal virus, it seems, the new normal. Now that Biden is ending or relinquishing essentially the emergency powers, the big question is going to be, do they put everything back to normal? One of the big changes we saw come about, for example, through the virus was universal mail-in ballots, the changes to election laws. And these changes to election laws have been broadly cited as some of the leading concerns people have with the elections. We'll see what happens with it. We'll also see what it means when they return to the normal functions of agencies in addressing what they call the endemic. A lot of questions still, but this is where we're at. AP also says Biden's announcement comes in a statement opposing resolutions being brought to the floor this week by House Republicans to bring the emergency to an immediate end. So Republicans want it to end right away. House Republicans are also gearing up to launch investigations on the federal government's response to COVID-19, meaning that all those, what we believe were abuses of power and possible constitutional violations, I'd say, frankly, there's more than enough evidence to say that was the case. These things will be investigated, and people might be held accountable, especially now, as we discussed yesterday, even Pfizer is admitting to an extent that they're working with third parties. They're working with other organizations which are carrying out programs to, for example, mutate the virus, to create new viruses, including engaging in gain of function research. They say some of this is done through P3 laboratories, and they claim that it's actually pretty much everybody doing it within that sphere. That they try to write off the blame and say, hey, it's not just us, it's the research facilities, it's the other companies, it's the academic organizations. They're all doing this type of research, basically creating new viruses, essentially. Read you one quote, then we'll go further on this. The Office of Management and Budget wrote in a statement that, quote, an abrupt end to the emergency declaration would create wide-ranging chaos. I don't know, that'd be chaos, but and uncertainty throughout the healthcare system for states, for hospitals and doctors' offices, and most importantly, for tens of millions of Americans. See where it goes. The other big problem you're going to have now is shareholders, because guess what? A lot of these vaccine companies got stinking rich. And people who have shares in these vaccine companies have basically been seeing higher numbers because of government subsidies. The federal government pouring money into Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, although that one kind of ended to an extent, pouring money into them, basically buying up en masse these vaccines or shots they've made, which are being mandated to be given to people. And given the fact that people have to buy what is a product from a private company, of course you're watching their stocks skyrocket. The question now is, will the government take their foot off the pedal and watch those stocks do a free fall? We'll see what happens with that as well. There's a lot of questions still need to be answered, and how much back to normal will we actually go? That is the big question. We'll see. Speaking of normal, there's some very not normal things happening right now. And the World Economic Forum is talking about launching, well, it's not them per se. I should clarify this. There's basically groups that go to the World Economic Forum and show their new technologies. A lot of it's around smart cities, right? A lot of it's around smart cities, how to integrate new technologies into governance, how the business systems and the government systems can collaborate together. That's the nature of the multi-stakeholder capitalism, as they call it. Basically, giving corporations a role in the government, where there's no real hard line between public and private anymore. That's the model of the World Economic Forum, essentially. And of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, which the WEF is a partner on. So they have these groups that go there and they show their technologies, they show their proposals, they try to present about their visions of the future. And one of the visions of the future is brain surveillance technology that uses little earbuds, kind of like your iPods or whatever like that. Do they still use iPods?